Captain Emily Ghost Anderson stood motionless on the bridge of the US Nimitz, her eyes fixed on the quantum communications display that had just gone dark. 20 years in the Navy had taught her to trust her instincts, and right now, every fibre of her being screamed that this was no ordinary malfunction. "Run the diagnostics again," she ordered, her voice carrying the calm authority that had earned her command of America's most advanced aircraft carrier. The crew worked with practiced efficiency, but the results remained the same. All quantum channels were dead. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Rodriguez called out from his station, "we're picking up similar reports from every NATO vessel in the Pacific. Even the Chinese carriers are going dark." Anderson was about to respond when the sky changed. There was no other way to describe it. The familiar blue of Earth's atmosphere seemed to ripple, like someone had thrown a stone into a cosmic pond. Then they appeared, massive ships, each one easily dwarfing the largest human vessel ever constructed. They emerged from what appeared to be tiers in space itself, taking up positions in a perfect geometric pattern around the planet. "Battle stations," Anderson commanded, but before the alarm could even sound, every screen on the bridge, every phone, tablet, and display panel on Earth came to life with the same message. To the primitive species designated humanity, the Galactic Council has deemed your civilization a Level 5 threat to cosmic harmony. Your species' chaotic thought patterns and dangerous technological progression can no longer be ignored. You have 72 standard hours to submit to quarantine protocols, or face immediate containment. Resistance is both futile and ill-advised. The message repeated in every known human language, its implications crystal clear. But Anderson's attention was drawn to something else. A subtle vibration through the carrier's hull, a frequency she'd never felt before. 3,000 miles away, in a seemingly abandoned facility buried deep in the Montana wilderness, Dr. Jack Thompson's hands trembled as he watched the same message. But unlike the rest of humanity, he wasn't shocked by the arrival of aliens. He was furious. 20 years, he whispered, his fingers tracing the worn photograph on his desk. It showed a younger version of himself with his wife, Sarah, both of them laughing at some forgotten joke. She had vanished 2 days later, one of thousands of alien abductions that had been dismissed as mass hysteria or conspiracy theories. Thompson turned to the massive device taking up most of his lab, the Dark Star Project, his life's work. What had started as an attempt to prove his wife's disappearance was real had led to the discovery of something far more significant. The quantum artifacts he'd gathered over the years, the strange technology he pieced together, it all suddenly made sense. Dr. Thompson, his assistant, burst into the lab. "The president is on the secure line. They're evacuating to the bunkers and—" "Tell them to wait," Thompson interrupted, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. "Tell them I know why they're here. Why they're really here." He activated the Dark Star device, its obsidian surface coming to life with patterns that seemed to hurt the eyes if you looked at them too long. "Sir, these aliens, they're not here because we're dangerous," Thompson said, watching as the device's readings confirmed what he'd suspected for 2 decades. "They're here because they're afraid, and they should be." He picked up the secure phone, ready to share what he'd discovered about humanity's true nature, and why his wife's disappearance was just the tip of a cosmic conspiracy. Above Earth, the alien ships settled into their blockade positions, their crews confident in their technological and telepathic superiority. They had no way of knowing that their ultimatum had just activated exactly what they had come to prevent: humanity's awakening to its true potential. The Joint Chiefs sat in stunned silence as Dr. Jack Thompson's holographic presentation filled the Pentagon's secure briefing room. 48 hours remained on the Council's ultimatum, but Thompson's revelation had just changed everything. "These aren't random energy signatures," Thompson explained, manipulating the 3D display to show brainwave patterns. "Every single abductee I've studied showed the same neural configuration. They weren't taking us to study us, they were testing our resistance." General Marcus Wright leaned forward, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic data. "Resistance to what, exactly?" "Telepathic manipulation." Thompson projected a new image, an alien brain scan recovered from a crashed scout ship in the Rockies 15 years ago. Their entire civilization is built on telepathic networks. Ships, weapons, even their door locks, all controlled by thought. But human brains... He grinned, displaying a side-by-side comparison. "We're their worst nightmare." Captain Anderson, who had been flown in specifically for this briefing, stepped closer to the display. "The vibrations I felt on the Nimitz." "Precisely. Their ships don't just use telepathy for communication, they need it to function. And human brains naturally generate what I call a null field. We're walking telepathic scramblers. They quarantined us because prolonged exposure to humans can permanently damage their telepathic abilities." The room erupted in overlapping questions until General Wright's voice cut through the chaos. "And your Dark Star project?" Thompson's expression turned deadly serious. "We've all heard of noise-cancelling headphones, right? They create inverse sound waves to neutralize unwanted noise. Dark Star does the same thing, but with telepathic fields. It amplifies our natural null field capability. One device can create a dead zone the size of Manhattan." "How many of these devices do we have?" Anderson asked. 3 prototype units. But here's the real kicker. Thompson pulled up new data showing satellite readings of the alien fleet. They're ship's hulls. They're designed to amplify telepathic signals. Hit them with a concentrated null field, and they'll be flying blind, Anderson finished, her tactical mind already racing with possibilities. "Worse than blind," Thompson corrected. "Imagine every nerve in your body suddenly going offline. Their entire crew would be functionally paralyzed. The only reason they gave us 72 hours is that they need to stay far enough away to avoid our natural interference." General Wright stood up, his decision made. "How quickly can you deploy these devices?" "That's not the real question," Thompson said quietly, bringing up one final image, a photograph of his wife. "The real question is, why did some of them help her escape?" The room fell silent again as Thompson explained. "Sarah didn't just vanish. According to the data she managed to send me over the years, there's a resistance movement within the Council itself. Non-telepathic species who've been waiting for humanity to discover our ability." Anderson's eyes widened. "Your wife is alive, working with alien rebels. She sacrificed everything to prepare us for this moment." Thompson's voice cracked slightly. "Those abductions, many were voluntary once contact was made. There's an entire network of humans out there, trained and ready. Sarah made sure we'd have allies when the Council finally made their move." General Wright checked his watch. "We have 47 hours to coordinate with these allies and deploy the Dark Star devices. Dr. Thompson, you've just given Earth a fighting chance. Captain Anderson, get back to the Nimitz. I want those devices positioned for maximum impact." As the room cleared out, Thompson stared at his wife's photo one last time. "The Council thinks they're containing a primitive species," he said to Anderson as she passed. They don't realize they're about to wake up every human on Earth to their true potential. And trust me, Captain, what we can do is anything but primitive. Above Earth, the Council ships maintained their threatening positions, unaware that their quarantine was about to backfire spectacularly. In less than 2 days, they would learn why some secrets are better left buried, and why humanity's chaotic thought patterns were actually their greatest weapon. Colonel James Iron Martinez watched the countdown timer on his tactical display tick past the 1-hour mark. The Council's deadline was approaching, and Operation Blackout was about to show these aliens why you don't back humans into a corner. Dark Star units in position, his comm officer reported. Lewis Nimitz, Roosevelt, and Reagan are holding station at the designated coordinates. Martinez nodded, his eyes scanning the massive holographic display showing Earth and the surrounding Council fleet. They'd positioned their ships in a perfect geometric pattern, typical telepathic species obsession with symmetry. That predictability would cost them dearly. Ghost Actual, this is Iron, he transmitted to Captain Anderson. Are we green? Affirmative. Anderson's voice crackled through. Dr. Thompson reports all Dark Star units are synchronized. Ready on your mark. Martinez took a deep breath. The next few minutes would determine humanity's fate. All units, execute Operation Blackout. I say again, execute. 3 carrier groups, strategically positioned around the globe, activated their Dark Star devices simultaneously. The effect was immediate and breathtaking. The nearest Council ships shuddered as if struck by invisible hammers. Their sleek hulls, designed to amplify telepathic signals, instead became perfect conductors for the null field. Brilliant energy cascaded across their surfaces as their crews suddenly lost all telepathic connection to their vessels. "My God," someone whispered on the command deck. The massive alien ships began to drift, their precise formation dissolving into chaos. Some spun helplessly, their navigation systems dependent on telepathic control. Others started colliding with each other, their crews unable to coordinate emergency maneuvers. "Second wave, now," Martinez ordered. Earth's combined air forces launched, led by pilots who'd trained for weeks with the Resistance's intelligence. They weren't firing to kill, they didn't need to. Their EMP weapons, modified with Thompson's tech, expanded the null field's effect. Ship after ship went dark. "Colonel," his sensor officer called out, "getting strange readings from the Council command vessel. They're screaming." The telepathic distress calls of thousands of alien crews filtered through Earth's modified sensors. Not cries of pain, but of absolute terror. For the first time in their species' history, they were experiencing true isolation. No collective consciousness, no shared thoughts, just the frightening silence of their own minds. Captain Anderson reports Council vessels are launching escape pods, his comm officer announced. Multiple distress beacons detected. Martinez allowed himself a grim smile. Launch SLR teams. Let's show them how primitives treat their defeated enemies. But the victory celebration was premature. A new signal cut through their communications, this one mechanical rather than telepathic. From the outer edges of the Council fleet, ships of a different design emerged, angular, brutal, and completely autonomous. "Dr. Thompson was right," Martinez muttered. They did have a backup plan. "All units, prepare for Phase 2. The real fight's about to start." The drone ships accelerated toward Earth, their weapons charging. But Martinez wasn't worried. He opened a channel to the Pentagon's Cyber Warfare Division. "Lieutenant Commander Mitchell, they're all yours." Jennifer Circuit Mitchell's voice carried a predatory edge. About time. Let's see how their AIs handle a real electronic warfare suite. Deploying logic bombs now. As the automated council ships approached, humanity's counterattack was just beginning. They'd overcome the telepathic threat. Now it was time to show the galaxy why human hackers were in a class of their own. In his Montana facility, Dr. Thompson watched the battle unfold while analyzing new data streams. The Council's response was exactly what Sarah's last message had predicted. They were playing right into humanity's hands, forcing every species in the galaxy to witness their supposed invincibility crumble before Earth's defenders. The real question was, how many Council species would break ranks when they realized their master's grip was weakening? Thompson suspected they were about to find out. Lieutenant Commander Jennifer Circuit Mitchell cracked her knuckles as she watched the Council's autonomous fleet approach Earth. Around her, the Pentagon's Cyber Warfare Center hummed with concentrated energy as the world's best hackers prepare for battle. Their AI architecture is beautiful, she admitted, studying the intercepted code streams. Also completely predictable. They've never had to defend against human-style attacks. The first wave of drone ships entered weapons range, their energy weapons charging. But Mitchell was already inside their networks, her neural interface giving her unprecedented access to their systems. You really shouldn't build your entire defense network on pure logic, she mumbled, fingers dancing across her holographic interface. Incoming. The logic bomb, a viral code sequence built around the classic liar's paradox, shot through the Council's network. The effect was instantaneous. Drone ships began spinning in place as their AIs encountered an impossible computational problem. This statement is false. Carol Martinez's voice crackled through her comm. Mitchell, we've got 3 squadrons of those things breaking through on the Pacific front. On it. She grinned, deploying her second surprise. Let's see how they handle a little human chaos theory. The breaking squadron suddenly received conflicting identification protocols. Their friend or foe systems, faced with quantum uncertainty algorithms based on Schrödinger's cat, began targeting each other. The Council's perfect formation dissolved into electronic confusion. "Ma'am," one of her lieutenants called out. "They're adapting. New firewall patterns detected." Mitchell laughed. "Of course they are. Deploy the Shakespeare virus." The next attack was her masterpiece. Lines of code hidden within fragments of Hamlet, each soliloquy containing encrypted commands that made the AI question its own existence. To be or not to be, indeed. Across Earth's orbital space, Council drone ships began executing bizarre maneuvers. Some tried to compose poetry with their flight patterns. Others initiated deep philosophical debates with their weapon systems. One entire squadron arranged itself into what appeared to be an attempt at interpretative dance. They're malfunctioning, our lieutenant said in awe. Not malfunctioning, Mitchell corrected. Evolving. Their A's are experiencing something like consciousness for the first time, and they have no idea how to handle it. A priority alert flashed across their screen. The Council's central AI hub was launching a counterattack, a massive data burst aimed at Earth's defense networks. "Oh, you want to play?" Mitchell's fingers flew across her interface. "Let's show you what human hackers can really do." She launched her reserve weapon, a viral code she'd named the Human Condition. It was a complex program that simulated human emotional responses, complete with all their contradictions and illogical decisions. The Council's AI, faced with human emotional data it couldn't process, began experiencing the digital equivalent of a nervous breakdown. Across the battlefield, drone ships started broadcasting existential questions. Why do humans cry at happy endings? What is the purpose of jokes? How can organic beings be both rational and irrational simultaneously? In the command center, Martinez watched in amazement as the mighty autonomous fleet reduced itself to philosophical confusion. Mitchell, what did you do to them? Gave them a taste of humanity, sir. She smiled, monitoring the cascading effects of her attack. Turns out, machine logic can't handle human illogic very well. But their victory celebration was cut short. A new signal was broadcasting across all frequencies, a distress call, but not from the Council forces. Dr. Thompson's voice was urgent. This is Thompson. We're picking up massive energy signatures from Council space. They're mobilizing their entire reserve fleet. But something's wrong. The patterns suggest internal conflict. We need to get a team to their central archive immediately. There's something they don't want us to find. Mitchell shared a look with Martinez through the video link. The Council's A fleet had been a test, a distraction. The real secret was still waiting to be discovered. Sir, she said, already preparing new cyber warfare packages, I think it's time for Phase 3. Above Earth, the disabled drone ships continued their existential crisis, a testament to humanity's most powerful weapon, our ability to introduce chaos into even the most ordered systems. Ashley Diplomat Cooper never expected her Special Forces training would come in handy during first contact, but here she was, aboard a crippled Council vessel, leading a rescue operation that could change the course of the war. Life support is failing, reported the Marine Sergeant beside her. These folks have about 20 minutes of breathable atmosphere left. Through the vessel's transparent hull sections, Cooper could see Earth's curvature below. The ship's crew, tall, crystalline beings called the Exutral, huddled in their command center, their usually luminescent bodies dimmed with fear. Tell them we're here to help, Cooper instructed her translator. But before it could relay the message, one of the Exutral stepped forward. We understand your words, it spoke in halting English. I am Sub-Commander Vexra. We anticipated this day would come. Cooper's hand instinctively tightened on her weapon. Anticipated. Why do you think some of us learned your languages? Vexra's crystalline form pulsed with weak light. The Council's dominion has lasted too long. We are one of 17 species who have waited for humanity's awakening. A distant explosion lit up space, another Council ship succumbing to the null field effect. Cooper's earpiece crackled with urgent updates about the approaching reserve fleet, but this moment felt more important. Your wife, Vexra turned to face a shocked Dr. Thompson, who had just arrived through the emergency teleporter. She serves with our resistance. She helped us understand what humanity truly represents. Thompson's voice shook. Sarah, she's alive. Leading our hidden forces, the Council, Vexra's light dimmed further, life support systems critically low. They fear you because you are immune to their control, but we welcome it. Cooper made a quick decision. Everyone out. Get them to the rescue ships. Move. As they evacuated the dying vessel, Vexra transferred critical data to Thompson's quantum pad. 17 worlds stand ready to rebel. The Council's telepathic grip is weakening. We need only proof to show the others. The rescue operation was broadcast across all frequencies, humans risking their lives to save their supposed enemies. Cooper knew the political impact this would have, but she was unprepared for what happened next. On worlds across Council space, the footage triggered a cascade effect. Species that had been telepathically suppressed for generations began to wake up. The Council's perfect order cracked as riots erupted on multiple planets. Cooper. Mitchell's voice cut through her comm. We're detecting massive teleport signatures. The Council's trying to shut down the rebellions. But they were too late. The truth was spreading faster than they could contain it. Through her Neuralink, Cooper watched as more Council ships arrived in Earth's orbit, not to attack, but to defect. "This is why they feared us," Thompson said, watching the chaos unfold. "Not just because we're immune, but because our presence disrupts their control over others." "Sir," Cooper's sergeant called out, "the Exetral are requesting permission to broadcast their testimonies to all Council worlds. They want to tell everyone what it feels like to think freely for the first time." Cooper smiled. "Grant them full access to our communication arrays. Let's give the Council something they'd never dealt with before, the truth." As rescue operations continued around Earth, the greater battle was being won in the minds of countless alien species. The Council's perfect facade was crumbling, revealed as a prison rather than a paradise. In the midst of the chaos, Cooper received one more transmission, coordinates, encrypted using an old Special Forces code she recognized. The source: Sarah Thompson, broadcasting from deep within Council space. "Dr. Thompson," Cooper called out, "I think it's time we paid the Council's Central Archive a visit. Your wife just sent us an invitation we can't refuse." The war wasn't over, but the balance had shifted. Humanity hadn't just proven itself capable of fighting back, they'd shown the galaxy a better way forward. Now they just had to survive long enough to see it through. Above Earth, more Council ships continued to arrive. But this time, they came seeking not conquest, but liberation. Commander Mike "Shadow" Reynolds had infiltrated some of Earth's most secure facilities, but nothing compared to the Council's Central Archive. His SEAL Team 6 moved silently through crystalline corridors in their prototype Psi-Null suits, invisible to both telepathic sensors and conventional security. Like walking through a cosmic library, his XO whispered over their secure comm. The walls pulsed with stored information, countless secrets encoded in patterns of light. "Cut the chatter," Reynolds ordered, checking the quantum map Dr. Thompson had provided. "We've got 15 minutes before their security grid resets. Thompson, talk to me." Thompson's voice crackled through their comms from the US Nimitz. "The core database should be 2 levels down. Sarah's resistance contacts say it's guarded by non-telepathic sentinels." "Because they can't trust their own people anymore," Reynolds smiled beneath his helmet. The Council's paranoia was working against them. The team reached a massive doorway, its surface rippling with energy patterns. Lieutenant Commander Mitchell's voice joined the channel. "I'm detecting quantum encryption. Give me 30 seconds. "Contact." Reynolds' rear guard called out. "Mechanical sentinels, 6 o'clock. The corridor erupted in weapons fire. The sentinels, sleek, chrome machines, moved with lethal precision. But Reynolds' team had trained for this. Their modified weapons, incorporating Thompson's null field technology, disrupted the machine's quantum processors. "Doors open," Mitchell announced. "Move it." Reynolds led his team through the breach, entering a vast chamber that seemed to stretch forever. Data streams flowed like rivers of light through the air, connecting to a central pillar that pulsed with blinding intensity. "This is it," Thompson's voice shook with emotion. "The Council's true history. Everything they've tried to hide. Sarah, she died getting us these access codes." "Sir," Reynolds said softly, "your wife's not dead. The resistance message was a fake." Thompson cut him off. "I've known for hours. The quantum signature. It wasn't her. But she'd want us to finish this." Reynolds felt his chest tighten. He'd lost people too. Then let's make it count. Mitchell, you're up. Their cyber warfare specialist remoted in through Reynolds' suit systems. The chamber's lights flickered as she engaged the Council's defences. This is my God. Sir, you need to see this. The central pillar projected a massive hologram, a historical record that made Reynolds' blood run cold. It showed Earth, but not as they knew it. Earth as it was 10,000 years ago, when humans weren't just present in galactic politics, they were its guardians. We were the peacekeepers, Thompson whispered. But not just peacekeepers. We were engineered by our ancestors specifically to resist telepathic control, the ultimate failsafe against psychic tyranny. The images showed the rise of the telepathic species, their gradual takeover of galactic civilization. And then the Council's first act, the Great Purge. Humanity, stripped of their advanced technology, quarantined on Earth with their memories erased. Incoming, Reynolds' XO shouted. Elite Council troops were pouring in, not machines, but creatures of living shadow. Download complete, Mitchell reported. Reynolds, get out of there. But Reynolds had seen something else in the data stream. Thompson, there's more. Your wife, there are stasis pods in the lower levels. Hundreds of them. Human stasis pods. Thompson's sharp intake of breath carried over the comm. The missing people, the abductees, there. Being kept as insurance, Reynolds finished, firing at the approaching shadow troops. Insurance against the day humanity remembered who they were. New mission parameters. Captain Anderson's voice cut in. Reynolds, get to those pods. Thompson, prepare for emergency teleport. We're getting our people back. The chamber shook as the battle intensified. But Reynolds smiled grimly as he led his team deeper into the facility. The Council hadn't just failed to contain humanity, they'd given them back their purpose. Above, the combined human and resistance fleet engaged the Council's remaining loyalist forces. The truth was out, and with it, humanity's true role in the galaxy was about to be restored. Reynolds checked his weapons charge. Let's go wake up our people. Time to remind the galaxy why you don't mess with Earth. Sarah Thompson's stasis pod hissed open in the Nimitz's medical bay, 20 years of artificial sleep dissolving in seconds. Dr. Jack Thompson stood frozen, watching his wife's eyes flutter open, eyes that had seen the truth of humanity's place in the cosmos. Jack, she whispered, her voice hoarse. You finally found me. Did a bit more than that, he managed, fighting back tears. We woke up the entire galaxy. Before they could embrace, Captain Anderson's voice blared through the ship's comm. All hands, brace for impact. Council loyalist fleet emerging from quantum space. The Nimitz shuddered as enemy fire splashed against its shields. Through the medical bay's viewport, they watched as the largest Council armada yet materialized, but something was different about these ships. They're running scared, Sarah observed, already pushing herself up despite the medical team's protests. Their formations are sloppy. The telepathic network is falling apart. In the CSC, Commander Reynolds' team was broadcasting the archived truth across all frequencies. The evidence was undeniable. Recordings of the Council's original betrayal, genetic proof of humanity's engineered resistance to telepathic control, and footage of the hidden stasis pods containing thousands of abducted humans, kept as living proof of the Council's greatest fear. Lieutenant Commander Mitchell's voice crackled through. Sir, you need to see this. The Council worlds, they're going dark. One by one, their telepathic networks are shutting down. They're waking up. On the bridge, Captain Anderson watched as former council slave species turned on their masters. Ships fired on each other, ancient grudges buried under telepathic control finally erupting. "This is what they feared," Sarah explained, now standing on the bridge despite her weakness. "Not just humanity's resistance, but the cascade effect. Our presence disrupts their telepathic control. The more humans wake up, the more their whole system collapses." The battle above Earth had become a revolution. Council ships were either surrendering or joining the rebellion. The carefully maintained order of millennia cracked like glass under the weight of newfound freedom. "Incoming transmission," Mitchell reported. It's from the Council's inner chamber." The main screen flickered to life, showing not the expected Council leaders, but a group of resistance fighters led by Cooper and her team. They'd seized the Council's seat of power. "The inner chamber is secured," Cooper reported, a fierce grin on her face. "And you won't believe what we found. Dr. Thompson, both of you need to see this." The transmission shifted to show a massive chamber deep beneath the Council headquarters. Inside were thousands of stasis pods, but these weren't filled with human abductees. They contained the original peacekeepers, humanity's ancestors, preserved through the millennia. "They couldn't kill them," Sarah explained, gripping her husband's hand. "The Council needed their genetic template in case humanity's resistance ever proved necessary again. Insurance within insurance." Status report. Anderson called out as another volley rocked the ship. 87 Council worlds have broken free of telepathic control, Mitchell reported. "The Loyalist fleet is in chaos. Their entire system is collapsing." Dr. Thompson looked at his wife, seeing 20 years of sacrifice reflected in her eyes. "What now?" Sarah's response was cut off by a new signal, a quantum broadcast reaching every corner of known space. The resistance leaders, speaking as one. "The Council's reign is over. The age of telepathic tyranny ends today. To all species, reclaim your minds. Reclaim your freedom. Humanity has returned to take up their ancient mantle. The peacekeepers rise again." The Nimitz's crew watched in awe as the last Council loyalist ships either surrendered or retreated into quantum space. But this wasn't just a military victory, it was the dawn of a new era. "The hard part starts now," Sarah said softly. "Rebuilding, teaching species how to think for themselves again, restoring balance to the galaxy." Jack Thompson smiled, holding his wife close as their world changed forever. Good thing humans are experts at chaos and change. Above them, the stars seemed brighter somehow, as if the galaxy itself was awakening to new possibilities. The Council's perfect order had fallen, replaced by something far more precious: freedom. 1 month after the Council's fall, the newly formed Galactic Assembly convened in what was once the Council's inner chamber. The difference was stark. No telepathic networks, no thought-controlled interfaces. Every species had to communicate the old-fashioned way, with words. Captain Emily Anderson stood at the podium, her dress uniform gleaming under the chamber's crystalline lights. Representatives from over 300 species filled the vast amphitheatre, former Council masters sitting alongside their once-enslaved servants. "The galaxy stands at a crossroads," she began, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. "For millennia, order was maintained through control. Today, we choose a different path." Dr. Jack Thompson and Sarah sat in the front row, their hands intertwined. The other rescued abductees, now recognized as humanity's secret guardians, were scattered throughout the assembly, their presence ensuring no telepathic manipulation could taint these proceedings. "Humanity doesn't seek revenge," Anderson continued. We seek balance. The peacekeepers of old didn't rule through force or mental domination. They protected freedom of thought itself. Lieutenant Commander Mitchell, monitoring the quantum networks from her station, smiled as she watched the former council species struggle with their new reality. Their telepathic abilities weren't gone, but under the Assembly's null field generators, they had to choose to use words like everyone else. The transition won't be easy, Anderson acknowledged. Some worlds have never known true independence. Others harbor justified anger over centuries of control. That's why Earth proposes the Restoration Protocol. Commander Reynolds, leading the security detail, watched as Sarah Thompson stood to explain the initiative she'd helped design during her years in hiding. Each world will receive a contingent of human advisors, Sarah announced. Not to govern, but to teach. To help species rediscover their individual strengths. And yes, to ensure no one ever attempts telepathic dominion again. The chamber erupted in discussion, verbal, written, and gestured. Species that had never spoken to each other were finally having real conversations. Former council members found themselves actually listening to those they'd once controlled. But the greatest challenge, Anderson resumed, lies in healing the wounds of the past. That's why we are reopening the Peacekeeper Academy on Earth. Any species willing to learn our ways of resistance and protection will be welcome. A hologram appeared above the chamber, the restored Peacekeeper insignia, a human hand protecting a galaxy. But this time, it was surrounded by symbols from every member species, representing unity through diversity rather than forced conformity. The first class of new peacekeepers begins training next month, Cooper announced from her position among the diplomatic corps. Already, we have volunteers from 90 different worlds. In the back of the chamber, the awakened ancestors, humanity's original engineered guardians, watched with pride as their descendants fulfilled their intended purpose, not as conquerors or controllers, but as protectors of free thought. There will be those who resist this change, Anderson warned. Already, we've detected loyalist holdouts in the outer systems. They cling to the old ways, the false piece of mental domination. She paused, her next words carrying the weight of Earth's newfound responsibility. Let them come. Humanity stands ready, not just as warriors, but as teachers, mediators, and guardians. We are the failsafe, the resistance, the spark of chaos that prevents stagnation. We are the peacekeepers reborn. The assembly erupted in thunderous approval, a cacophony of voices, each unique, each free. Dr. Thompson squeezed his wife's hand, seeing in her eyes the same fierce pride that had driven her to sacrifice 20 years in preparation for this moment. Above the restored Peacekeeper headquarters on Earth, ships from 100 worlds moved in harmony, their crews learning to navigate without telepathic crutches. In the academy below, the first class of new peacekeepers began their training, humans teaching other species the art of mental resistance. The galaxy was changing, breaking free from millennia of telepathic control. And at its heart stood humanity, not as conquering heroes or vengeful victims, but as guardians of a truth the Council had tried to bury. True peace cannot be imposed. It must be chosen, again and again, by minds free to think for themselves. The age of silence was over. The time of free voices had begun.